Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are digging into something pretty wild.
Yeah, we've got a pile of sources here about, well, travel experiences that sound like absolute nightmares.
We're talking about those really, really bad one-star airline reviews you see online, the kind that make you wonder, can this possibly be real?
Exactly. And we also have a video from someone who, believe it or not, decided to find out. He took these crazy reviews and actually flew the airlines to test the claims.
So it's this fascinating mix. Airlines famous for terrible reviews, but often they're also really successful. It just doesn't quite add up sometimes.
Right. So that's the core tension we're exploring. Can those one-star experiences, the really over-the-top ones, actually be what happens?
Our mission then for this deep dive is to unpack those specific, sometimes frankly bizarre claims from the reviews.
And see how they stack up against what this one person actually experienced on the flight. Get past the shock value headlines.
Yeah, try to understand that gap between reputation and reality.
And there are definitely some surprising findings here. Some real aha moments about online reviews and what they actually mean for travelers like you.
Okay, so let's get into the source material. How did this whole test begin?
So the main source is this project by a creator who basically collected a bunch of the most infamous one-star reviews for airlines known for, let's say, polarizing feedback.
Notorious airlines. Got it.
Right. And his plan was pretty straightforward, but kind of bold. Fly them himself, directly test the specific things people were complaining about in those reviews.
That takes some dedication. Did he have rules?
He had one main rule, which I think is key. He'd leave a 5-star review for the airline only if his actual experience on that flight honestly warranted it.
So no bias either way, just based on that single flight.
Exactly. Honest assessment, flight by flight. And this whole thing was building up to what he called the final boss.
Which was?
Ryanair. Almost legendary for its reputation, the fees, the sometimes confrontational social media.
Oh, yeah, their Twitter feed is something else.
Right. But they're also hugely profitable. It's a paradox.
Yeah.
And there was even this funny side quest he had to get to Europe in time for his fantasy football draft.
Priorities. Okay, so a modern-day quest indeed. Where did flight number 1 take him?
Started off at Newark, New Jersey. First airline on the chopping block, United Airlines.
Okay, United. I feel like everyone has a United story. What were the specific one-star claims he was testing?
Well, there was a pretty infamous one about Gate 17 at Newark, smelling horribly of smoke, apparently gave the reviewer a headache, flight got canceled, they missed a wedding, just a whole cascade of misery.
Yikes. Starting strong, what else?
Then there was a really scary one. Someone claimed there was a huge crack in their window and it was just taped over.
Wait, tape on a plane window? That sounds not okay.
Not okay at all. Felt more like a safety issue than just bad service.
Yeah.
And then some slightly more relatable ones, I guess, like someone complaining they only got a small cup of apple juice while the person next to them got a whole can. The injustice.
Huh. Okay, I can almost see that one happening.
And another confusing one about being denied more water, followed by some text that just kind of trailed off. Sounded like the person was really upset.
All right, so our tester gets to Newark. First mission. Gate 17. Did it reek of smoke?
He went straight there, reported the air smelled totally normal. No smoke. Nothing.
Huh.
He thought, maybe there was a restaurant nearby venting something that day for the original reviewer or something else entirely. But the claim about the gate itself having this persistent smoke smell debunked on his trip.
Okay, one down. What about the taped-up, cracked window horror story?
He actually had an aisle seat for this flight, so he couldn't check his own window directly, but he kept an eye on his seatmate's window. When they opened the shade later, no crack, no tape.
So again, doesn't mean the first person was lying necessarily, but...
But on this specific flight, that really alarming claim just wasn't there. Not validated by his experience.
Okay, and the all-important beverage situation, the apple juice scandal.
He decided to test it head on. Just asked the flight attendant, can I have a whole can of apple juice, please?
And he got one, no problem.
So maybe the first person just didn't ask, or policy changed.
Could be either. But the idea that you can't get a whole can seemed false, at least on this flight. He also tested the water thing, asked for a second cup.
Let me guess, he got it.
Yep, got it, without any issue. So that claim about being denied water didn't check out either.
So for United, the really dramatic stuff, the smoke, the taped window, didn't match his reality. And the smaller service complaints seemed easily solved by just asking clearly. Interesting.
Yeah, it really makes you think about context, doesn't it? Anyway, the journey continued. Next up, American Airlines, flying Nashville to Miami.
Ah, American. Let's hear the one-star highlights for that.
Oh, they were Memorable. One person said they'd rather die than fly American again, cited trash on the floor, and the detail everyone remembers, poop stains on an exit row seat.
Oh, no. Not actual poop stains. Please tell me that's exaggeration. Well, that was the claim. We'll get to the test. There was also a really long one listing like 5 ways the staff and management were terrible, inept, lacked hospitality. Basically wishing for 0 stars.
Okay, detailed negativity. Anything else?
There was a wonderfully brief and mysterious one. Betty is just horrible.
Just Betty. Sorry.
No idea. Just Betty. Horrible. And then maybe my favorite, a review claiming the flight was canceled because American lost the plane.
They lost the plane? How do you lose a plane?
Right. And this reviewer included a photo of them vandalizing an American Airlines ad. Classy.
Okay, so lost planes and poop stains. How did the actual flight compare?
Well, there was a funny moment right at the start. He got to the gate area, and it was totally empty. And his first thought was literally, oh my God, they actually did lose the plane. The review was right.
Huh. Panic setting in.
For a second. Then he realized, wrong gate. His actual flight was boarding fine at the correct gate nearby. So, the lost plane claim. Debunked by simple user error.
Phew. Okay, but the big one. The exit row. The stains.
Did he check? He was actually assigned an exit row seat, just like the reviewer. So the pressure was on. He said he sat down quickly, tried to act normal, but later, feeling incredibly awkward, he did manage to discreetly check his seat area.
And the verdict?
No poop stains.
Yeah.
None whatsoever. He mentioned how weird it felt performing that check next to strangers.
I can only imagine. Okay, crisis averted there too. What about the general state of the plane? The trash? The service?
Seat was clean, he said. Maybe some minor cosmetic scuffs, but nothing major. No cracked window this time either. Didn't see any trash on the floor. And the service, totally opposite of the reviews.
Oh, really? How so?
He described the flight attendants as great. Said they were quick with drinks. He got a full can of soda this time without even asking. Efficient with trash collection, too.
Did he find the infamous Betty?
Huh. He tried. Said he subtly glanced at name tags when they came by, but nobody was identified. She remains a mystery.
And he found a moment of peace.
Yeah, he mentioned going to the bathroom and noticing the blue lighting and called it a sanctuary from the awkwardness of, worrying about non-existent poop stains next to strangers.
Fair enough. So, for American, the really shocking claims were completely off based on his flight. No stains, no trash, plane wasn't lost, service was good. Another big gap between the review horror stories and reality.
A really big gap.
Okay.
Next leg. A quick hop from Miami to Orlando on Delta.
Delta, what delights awaited in their one-star reviews?
A nice mix. One was just blunt. I hate Miami International Airport.
Okay, that not even about Delta, just the airport.
Just hating on MIA. Then a really dramatic one describing their travel day as an odyssey with over 15 flight changes. Listed all these negative emotions like characters from Inside Out 2, apparently, expressing total frustration but vowing not to cry.
Wow, 15 changes sounds exhausting.
For sure. Then there was a review from someone who'd apparently written over 1,000 Yelp reviews. Their concise take on Delta. Delta equals never leaving the airport.
That's quite the claim from a prolific reviewer.
Very direct. Another one got specific about service. Claimed flight attendants lied about running out of coffee, and that this somehow contradicted something on their lanyards about caring.
Lanyard saying, we care. Okay? And the last one?
Just. Emergency landing, followed by a tired face emoji. Simple, but chilling.
Yeah, that's unsettling. Okay, so, boots on the ground in Miami. Did he hate the airport?
Nope. He found Miami International perfectly fine, contradicted that review immediately. He did say other people around seemed stressed, maybe they were having delay issues, but his specific flight, on time, no changes reported.
And did he in fact leave the airport, despite the prophecy from the 1,000-review Yelp user?
Yes. Despite the dire warning, his Delta plane did indeed push back from the gate, taxi, and take off successfully. So, never leaving the airport. Debunked.
Good to know Delta planes can fly. What about the coffee conspiracy? Did they lie about it?
This was interesting. So because it was a short flight, the attendants announced up front there'd be no cabin service.
Okay, standard for short hops.
Right. But then he noticed they were serving drinks up in first class. So he thought, okay, let's test this lying about coffee thing. He flagged down an attendant and asked for coffee.
How'd that go?
Funny bit of confusion first. The attendant thought he asked for the bathroom. But once he clarified coffee, he actually got it.
So they did have coffee?
They did. He even chatted with the attendant who said, yeah, sometimes they do run out on longer flights, it depends. But the idea they just lie about it seemed wrong. On this short flight, standard service wasn't planned, but coffee was available if requested. Not quite the conspiracy the review suggested.
Okay. And the lanyards, did they proclaim Delta's caring nature?
He tried to check this too, asked a random airport worker nearby about their lanyard. Theirs didn't say anything special.
Oh.
So inconclusive on the lanyard front, really. Hard to verify based on one interaction.
Fair enough. And crucially, the emergency landing.
Thankfully, no. Absolutely not. Landing was totally smooth, completely normal, another dramatic claim completely debunked by his actual experience.
So, Delta summary. Flight left. Coffee acquired. Despite initial announcements, no emergency. Airport was fine for him. He actually came away feeling like Delta did care based on the service he got. Again, a stark contrast.
It's a pattern, isn't it? Okay, this brings us to a bit of a different test. Aer Lingus. He flew them to get to Europe for that fantasy draft.
Aer Lingus. Nice.
Yeah, he mentioned liking the name, even found some distant Irish roots, felt a connection. And this test was specifically in business class.
Ooh, fancy. Do one-star reviews hit differently when you've paid business class prices?
They certainly seem to. One reviewer claimed they paid $6,800 for business, got put in economy, called it robbery, and even used made-up words like uncontrollable and unscrupulous.
$6,800 down to economy. Yeah, I'd be inventing words too. What else?
Another complained the plane was ancient, like 18 years old, so the seats were torn, dirty, crumbs everywhere. And the movie selection was old, specifically mentioning Despicable Me from 2010.
Despicable Me. Okay. Pretty specific detail.
And this reviewer made the absolutely wild claim that, based on this business class flight, Ryanair is better.
Wow. Okay, comparing Aer Lingus business class unfavorably to Ryanair, that is a take.
A very strong take. Then you had the more general complaints. Worst service ever. Staff should be fired, treated rudely, felt it was a miracle they landed safely. Though the tester noted this reviewer seemed to give one-star reviews to basically everything they reviewed online.
Ah, the serial one-star reviewer. Important context. Any food complaints?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Very dramatic. Oh, my lord, the food wasn't edible. Oh, dear.
Indeed. All right, so how did the tester's actual, presumably expensive Aer Lingus business class experience measure up?
It was almost the complete opposite of those reviews. First off, his booking was solid, definitely business class, no risk of being bumped down or robbed of $6,800.
Good start. Plane condition. Seats. Crumbs.
He said the plane looked great, the business section felt really luxurious, got offered a drink right away, orange juice. So immediate contradiction to the worst service ever claim.
And the seats. Torn and dirty.
Not at all. Said his seat was very nice, definitely not torn or dirty. He looked, no crumbs found. Those specific claims were just wrong for his flight. He listed off all the amenities too, like a free Wi-Fi pass worth 20 euros, an amenity kit with actually useful stuff, comfy pillow and blanket, power outlets, lay-flat seat, touch screen, the works. Felt like real value.
That's nice. What about the staff interaction? Were they horrible?
He met his flight attendant, Simon. Described Simon as amazing. They actually shook hands. Said Simon seemed really cool, even told me he enjoyed making people happy.
Not demanding they be fired, then.
Definitely not. Total opposite of the rude staff claims.
Okay, the moment of truth. The food. Was it inedible?
He had the salmon. His description. Most edible food ever tasted. He even ate a vegetable. Said he was so impressed.
High praise. Eating a vegetable at all.
Apparently. He joked about a doctor always telling him to eat vegetables. Had dessert and coffee, too. Called it fancy and so good. Explicitly said the inedible food review. Completely debunked. Even mentioned enjoying the fancy business class bathroom after his healthy meal.
Did he check the movie selection? Was Despicable Me there?
He did. And yes, Despicable Me from 2010 was available. So that specific detail from the review was accurate.
1 point for the reviewer.
But then he fell asleep watching it because the lay-flat seat was just too comfortable.
Fair trade-off. Landing. Any miracles needed?
He mentioned hitting some insane turbulence just before landing, which sounds a bit hairy.
Uh-oh.
But then immediately followed up saying the landing itself was perfect.
Okay, so a bit rough on approach, but safe and sound. So, Aer Lingus business class. Overwhelmingly positive.
Totally. Luxurious, clean, amazing service, great food. Almost every single negative claim directly contradicted by his experience, except for the presence of an older cartoon. That Ryanair comparison seems even more bizarre now.
Yeah, it really throws those extreme reviews into question, doesn't it? Which I guess brings us perfectly to
the final boss, Ryanair.
The airline everyone loves to hate, or maybe just loves because it's cheap. Famous for the fees, the bright yellow, the savage Twitter account.
And yet, one of the most profitable airlines in the world. A true enigma. The one-star reviews for Ryanair are just next level.
Okay, let's hear them. Brace ourselves.
There's one absolute epic. Described severe turbulence like being in a washing machine. Said their partner fainted, blamed bad maintenance, claimed the pilot overshot the runway, had to pull up sharply, almost went vertical.
Seriously, overshot the runway?
Pilot supposedly announced, "Sorry, we missed the approach." And then the grand finale, they landed in the wrong country.
Oh, the wrong country.
That's the claim. Review ended calling the airline shite.
I have no words. That's beyond a bad flight. That's international incident territory.
You'd think. Another review complained about poor customer service and a bloody landing, claimed they were lucky not to have broken limbs, and this person said they'd fly Aer Lingus instead from now on.
Interesting. The exact opposite of the Aer Lingus reviewer who preferred Ryanair. It's like they're reviewing different realities.
It really highlights the subjectivity, or maybe the exaggeration. Then there was this specific complaint about Ryanair's official Twitter quote tweeting and bullying a customer asking for help. Our tester actually found the tweet, confirmed it happened.
So they really do embrace that online persona.
They absolutely do. We also had a review that was just a photo of someone vandalizing a Ryanair ad. No words needed, apparently.
Keeping it classy.
And one more. Someone dramatically vowed to write daily about Ryanair's misfortunes and despair, using a special hashtag on Yelp, where hashtags don't work.
A commitment to daily Yelp despair via non-functional hashtags.
Okay. And the tester noted this was their only review in 18 months, so maybe the daily despair didn't quite pan out.
So against this backdrop of washing machine turbulence, wrong countries, broken limbs, and Twitter bullying, how was the actual Ryanair flight?
Well, he admitted feeling genuinely nervous beforehand, given everything he'd read, but he was determined. Had a slight worry about his bag fitting the notorious sizer, fearing fees, but it was okay.
First hurdle cleared. Boarding staff.
He said the staff were actually friendly during boarding, so initial impression wasn't bad, but the takeoff.
Oh.
He described it as the fastest takeoff he'd ever seen, and said the turbulence during the ascent was terrifying.
Terrifying. Okay, so maybe some truth to the turbulence claims.
Potentially. He did note the runway was wet, which might have played a role. But yeah, his experience included some genuinely scary-sounding turbulence early on.
What about the plane itself? As basic as rumored.
Oh, yeah. He confirmed the lack of amenities, no outlet, no screen, not even a seat back pocket, purely functional bare-bones transport.
Oh.
He asked how much a coffee cost, £3.50, just reinforcing that everything extra costs.
And the Twitter test. Did they bully him?
He actually tweeted at Ryanair during the flight, and he responded immediately.
Wow. Fast response. Did they say anything mean?
The source doesn't actually say what their response was, just that it was immediate.
Yeah.
So responsive, yes. Bullying. Unconfirmed from his tweet.
Okay. Any other misfortunes and despair occur?
Well, something unplanned did happen. He accidentally spilled his coffee all over himself.
Oh, no. On Ryanair.
Right. Creates this visible stain, makes things a bit awkward on a no-frills flight. He joked about looking like he'd had a nightmare accident when he went to the bathroom. Quite a contrast to the fancy Aer Lingus loo.
A very human travel moment. Okay, but the million-dollar question, did he land in the correct country?
Yes, absolutely. Pilot announced 45 minutes to landing. He joked about maybe ending up in Spain or France, hoping for France to buy new pants after the coffee incident. But he explicitly confirmed no sign of any emergency landing. View outside was beautiful. Landed exactly where they were supposed to. The claim about landing in the wrong country, totally debunked. The severe pilot error, overshooting runways, didn't happen. The broken limbs landing, also debunked.
So Ryanair, intense takeoff turbulence, definitely basic, definitely costs for extras. But friendly enough staff initially, super responsive on Twitter, and most importantly landed safely in the right place. The most extreme lawsuit-level claims. Nowhere near his experience.
Exactly. Yeah, it was functional, maybe uncomfortable with the turbulence, but not the airborne disaster some reviews painted.
So our tester made it. Through United, American, Delta, Aer Lingus business, and even survived the final boss, Ryanair.
He did. And he stayed true to his rule, went online and wrote his 5-star reviews for each one based purely on those specific flight experiences.
Which is quite something, considering the reviews he started with.
And he got that little personal win, too, won his fantasy football draft, picked the player recommended by Simon, the flight attendant from Aer Lingus. Nice little feedback loop there.
Love that. So it really brings us back to that core puzzle, doesn't it? Why do these airlines, especially Ryanair, get so many incredibly negative, almost unbelievable 1-star reviews? Yet they fly millions and make tons of money. His experience just didn't match the worst of it, time after time.
Yeah, looking just at these sources, the reviews on one side, his direct test on the other, you start to wonder, right, are lots of these reviewers just exaggerating massively, maybe out of frustration, or maybe they just like telling a dramatic story?
Or are these genuinely terrible things happening, but they're super rare, like really isolated incidents, and he just happened to have smooth flights?
That's possible too. Or maybe his experience, just being one person on one set of flights, isn't representative of what many others go through. It's hard to say definitively from this.
Or maybe for a lot of people, the main thing is just the price, getting from A to B as cheaply as possible. And maybe that outweighs the risk of bad service or discomfort. Like, people tolerate it because it's cheap, even if they'd write a one-star review if things do go wrong.
Could be. The source doesn't give us the answer, but it really throws that contrast into sharp relief, the online shouting, versus one person's quiet, generally okay journey.
This whole deep dive, testing those one-star reviews, it's been a really eye-opening look at that potential gulf between what you read online and what you might actually experience.
Definitely makes you pause and think. Maybe you can't always take the most extreme claims at face value. Sometimes the reality is just more normal.
So, thinking about this, how does this change the way you look at online reviews now? When you're booking a flight or even choosing a restaurant or buying something online, what do you trust? How do you sort through all that noise?
Yeah, how do you weigh the super negative against the super positive and everything in between?
And maybe here's a final thought to chew on. If the airlines with arguably the worst reputations online can also be the most financially successful, what does that really tell us about what travelers prioritize today? Is it really all about comfort and amazing service? Or is it just about the bottom line getting there for the lowest cost, even if it means rolling the dice on the experience itself?
Something to think about next time you're booking a trip. We hope this gave